My ex-best friend, 20M, confessed his love for my girlfriend, 20F, and wants to be her white knight. For context, my girlfriend, S, and I have been dating for nearly 4 years and have generally had a good relationship during that time. S and I began dating when she was experiencing some challenging family issues, and she eventually moved into my childhood home with me and my family. Before S and I got together, I was best friends with J. He and I have been friends for almost 7 years, and we have argued over the same girl on several occasions. I liked a girl, and he ended up in a relationship with her. He liked another girl and was so confident that I would be rejected that he tried to set us up, but it did not work out for him. All those issues concerning girls were resolved in high school when I found the love of my life, who had no connection to J, and he showed no interest in her. S did not have many girlfriends, and she often hung out with my friends or the small group we had together, which consisted entirely of guys. I try not to feel insecure, as it has always been known that she prefers having male friends over female friends due to the drama that often accompanies female friendships. Jay had a habit of coming over after school, and we would spend long periods talking and smoking. J, S, and I did this almost every day, especially during my last summer break there. As time went on, I went to college out of state, while S stayed in my family's house, working a job nearby in the hopes of saving enough money to move out with me. During that time, S and J became really good friends, and I found comfort in knowing that she at least had a friend to confide in while I wasn't there, a friendship that was better than her previous toxic friendships. I visited her as often as I could, nearly every month, and sometimes every 2 or 3 weeks, and their friendship grew stronger each time I returned. I never suspected S of doing anything with him, as we had already discussed what would happen if J ever developed feelings for S. We could not even entertain that possibility, because J had told us that he was only interested in Latinas and had never shown any romantic interest in S outside of being very friendly. Over time, they became best friends, and part of me felt somewhat insecure because I desperately wanted to be Estique's best friend. She is the one I love. They would often watch television shows together and smoke, and it became a routine of, I am off work. I am not doing anything. Do you want to smoke? My girlfriend confided in me about how difficult it was for her with me away during our long-distance relationship. When I left, she would always feel heartbroken, and Jay was there to comfort her. We worked through this and stayed together for the last 2 years of my college experience, and that was the pattern for S and J. I felt powerless to change anything because I was already causing her pain by leaving, and I did not want to hurt her further by taking away her only friend. For the past 6 months, I have felt extremely insecure about their relationship and have constantly second-guessed myself. I fell into the mindset that I could not address it without hurting her, so I should just leave it alone and maintain peace, but a war was raging in my mind. For months, the only thing I could think about while I was away was their friendship, and I never knew if they were more than friends behind my back, or if I was just overthinking things. This has turned into a cycle where I overthink or second-guess myself, working myself up to the point that I instinctively dismiss it in my mind and allow the question to consume me without taking any action. Fortunately, things improved recently, and S moved in with me, and we got a house together. You would think this would strengthen our relationship, but it only exacerbated our issues. Before S and I moved in together, our relationship was somewhat unstable, primarily because I failed to adequately express my love and emotions. I was always so caught up in my thoughts about what S and J might be doing that I never paused to consider what I was contributing to our relationship. I acknowledged to both myself and her that I was not exhibiting enough love, and that once we moved in together, I could show her how much I cared and provide her with the affection she desired. Finding a house together within a tight time frame further weakened our relationship, as stress peaked when she quit her job to focus on the move. We argued over small matters while searching for the perfect home, and I simply wanted her there with me so she could realize that I was all hers. We ultimately found the perfect house and moved in without any assistance from my family. Even though I had asked them to help with the move, they were not present. This put additional strain on our relationship when Estique's family, with whom she has a difficult relationship, helped significantly more than my own family did. We would have been in a dire situation without them. She resented having to rely on her family, and I felt frustrated that my family, who could have easily helped and promised to do so, did not follow through, despite my pleas. S found a demanding job with my roommate, which required her to work significantly more hours than she ever had before. She had to manage calls and texts even after her shifts ended. I am still in school and have been accustomed to that routine my whole life, so I did not fully grasp what it was like for her to return home after a grueling day. She would criticize me for not having the entire house cleaned, for neglecting the laundry, or even for small things, like forgetting to leave the dog door open. This has caused her to feel unsupported and to doubt my ability to take care of her because I keep making minor mistakes that, to her, feel significant. I always assure her that my shortcomings are not due to a lack of love or care, but rather that I am preoccupied with my commitments, and I cannot attend to every detail perfectly when she does not specify what she expects. She tells me she just wants me to handle things without her having to ask, but I often do not realize what needs to be done until it is too late and she is upset. Recently, S and I had a major argument after she returned home from work. I had forgotten to put the shock collar on our dog, who becomes anxious when she arrives home. With the collar on, the dog calms down without requiring further input from us. I had prepared dinner and cleaned the house, but when she pointed out my oversight with the collar, I reacted defensively. I said, "Why don't you just put the collar on the dog if it matters so much to you?" She did not respond in the moment, but I could tell that it affected her. I ended up putting the collar on, but before going to bed, she told me she felt disrespected by me. She explained that since she started her new job, she has been surrounded by men who treat her with respect, which has made her realize that I do not talk to her with the same level of respect. She expressed that she does not want to end our relationship because she cannot envision her future with anyone else and wants to grow old with me, but she needs to feel cared for. I agreed with her and confessed that I never intended to be disrespectful. I felt that my time was not valued as much as hers, and that she spoke down to me concerning my schoolwork as if it meant nothing. She reminded me that this was not the first time she had mentioned this issue, and that she would not allow it to continue. I promised her I would prioritize our relationship above everything else. That conversation took place just a few days ago. Since we moved in together, S has frequently been FaceTiming and calling J. After work, sometimes all she wants to do is sit down and watch television, which is understandable, but it is almost always with J. They were following a long series together, and I attempted to keep up, but they would watch it when I was not around. A whole season would pass, and I would be completely lost. Jay works night shifts, and during his 30-minute breaks, he and S would chat. At first, I did not think much of it, but then it became a routine. They began talking when I was not there, and if I was present, she would walk away not hiding what they were discussing, but not letting me know either. Typically, their conversations involved football or series discussions, or at least that is what I convinced myself. Yesterday, when S returned home from work, she was acting strangely. I asked if something was wrong, and she simply said it had been a long day and she was tired. I took her words at face value. While I was inside tidying up, I overheard her and my roommate whispering about Jay. Their conversation was not typical, it was quiet and secretive. Hearing Jaytik's name confirmed my suspicions that something was amiss. When I went outside, S said she needed to talk to me. She mentioned she had a lot on her mind and required some space, so she, my roommate, and their coworker were going to drive up a scenic mountain to think things through. I said that was fine, but inquired if there was anything else she needed to tell me. She repeatedly insisted there wasn't. I insisted that I knew something was off. I directly asked her about Jay. She looked at me with a sigh before finally revealing the truth. She confessed that Jay has been the person she turns to whenever we face difficulties. Every time we argue, she shares her frustrations with him. The only things he knows about me are the errors I make and the ways I fail her. Then, Jay told her he loved her. He sent her multiple paragraphs stating that when she moved away, he felt as though a part of him had died. When he came to visit us in our new home, he realized he was still in love with her. He criticized me, saying I was inconsiderate toward her. He told her he could respect her in ways I never could and that he had always been there for her. Then he said, "I want to be your white knight." I was in disbelief at what I was hearing. For months, I had harbored suspicions. My instinct suggested that something was wrong, but I never found the courage to say anything. I convinced myself that if I spoke up, I would only make matters worse by jeopardizing Esteque's only friend. I told S that I had felt insecure about their relationship for a while, and she told me she wished I had confided in her earlier so that things would not have reached this point. She reassured me that she does not have feelings for Jay and never has she insists she only wants to be with me. However, she also mentioned that with the way I have been treating her recently, she was uncertain how much longer she could tolerate the situation. We discussed the situation further, and I embraced her tightly, fearful of letting go because I was unsure about her thoughts. She said she had to leave and kissed me before departing, and as soon as she was gone, I broke down. I was left alone with my thoughts, feeling helpless and uncertain about what to do. When she returned home, I hugged her and promised to improve. She just looked at me and said, "I don't know if I can trust you. You've made these promises before. You've been trying to get better, but it's still not enough." She told me she needed to go to bed because she had a long day tomorrow and did not want to discuss it any further. Before going to bed, I asked if I could see Jay's messages. She showed me. It was troubling. She acknowledged her uncertainty about how to handle the situation, given that Jay has been our friend for such a long time. At one point, we even planned for him to live with us in the future. I wanted to block him. I wanted to confront him aggressively. I wanted to take some action, but I feel powerless. She eventually fell asleep. I stayed awake throughout the night, pondering our relationship, what went wrong, and how to deal with Jay. It is morning now. She is at work. I have no one else to confide in. I am uncertain if I am wrong to feel this way. I do not know how to resolve this situation. All I know is that I love S more than anything. I do not want to lose her. I have envisioned my entire future with her, but I am unsure what my next steps should be. Please, someone advise me on what the right course of action is. I apologize for the poor formatting. I am typing on my phone, and this is my first time posting in a Reddit thread. Story 2. Revamping my inner circle. I 25M, friend 1 26M, friend 2 26F, and friend 3 25M. My inner circle is on the verge of annihilation. I have or had 3 close friends. For the purpose of protecting their identities, let us call them friend 1, friend 2, and friend 3. I will explain how my friendships with friend 1 and friend 2 ended, and potentially with friend 3. Friend 1. I regarded him as one of my closest friends. We both loved baseball and played it together in high school. We ate lunch together every day, attended football games every Friday night, and stayed in touch and socialized after high school ended. I went to him for advice when I was struggling with the yips, a baseball term, and confided in him, expressing regret about how I perceived my playing career as a child. We rarely agreed on political matters, and had a debate in 2020 regarding the impact that Joe Biden would have on our country as president. He voted for Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. I wrote in Tulsi Gabbard in 2020 and voted for Donald Trump this time around. I made story posts on Instagram during election night celebrating Trump's victory, and he blocked me. He did not reach out to inquire why I voted for Trump, but I understood why he blocked me. I was initially shocked because I had hinted before the election that I intended to vote for Trump when I posted a pro-Trump video made by his son, Donald Trump Jr., and Tulsi. I should have anticipated this reaction all along. He voted for the Democratic nominee in 3 presidential elections consecutively. The one time we voted differently and his candidate lost, he revealed his true colors and feelings about me. Since he discarded me from his life due to politics, I no longer wish to have any contact with him. I expressed my frustrations about this to friends 2 and 3, and they believe we will reconcile at some point. It is nonsense. Who ends a 10-year friendship solely over politics? Friend 2. I found it difficult to end this friendship. We met during the spring semester of 2018 in our United States history class. Friend 2 and I are not lifelong friends. I became frustrated when she repeatedly asked me to explain what the professor said during her lectures. I communicated my irritation to her regarding this. She did not pay attention, and I felt as though she was trying to rely on me to pass the class. I remember running into her while walking to a class the following semester, and I spoke to her. I felt remorseful for being aggressive towards her and recognized that she did not mean any harm. She is a smart and kind individual, but she lacked focus. Friend 2 and I were friends for nearly 6 years. I used to run a club at the university we both attended at the time. She was one of my board members, and we became quite close as we interacted more regularly. She helped me process the loss of my childhood friend who served in the Marines. We were both there to support each other during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we all had to remain at home. I would say our friendship began to decline after I graduated college in 2021. I enlisted in the military in July 2022. When I first informed her of my decision, she did not fully support it. She told me she was proud of me for joining, but was also fearful for my safety and life. That strikes me as half-hearted support. I joined the military to honor my childhood friend who served in the Marines and to serve my country. If she cannot accept that I am willing to die for America, she is selfish. It appears she is fine with others putting their lives on the line for our country, but does not want me to do so. I must live and die by my own decisions. It is not her choice to make. I vented to her about how much I disliked being in the military and my fear of flying a plane during my private pilot license training. She continued to tell me that I would be happier and less stressed if I left the military and flight training. I argued that I had invested so much time and money into obtaining my license, which I now possess, and I could not just quit in the middle of my contract. I did not want to take the easy way out, even though I hated this career. It also took me some time to admit to her that I felt ashamed of quitting so many things in my life, including baseball, swimming, and piano. I wanted to break the cycle of not overcoming adversity in my life. When I passed my private pilot check ride, I felt a sense of accomplishment for not only earning my license, but also overcoming a significant hurdle in my life. When I graduated from boot camp, I felt proud of myself for not giving up during the training. I also disliked how she continually encouraged me to find a romantic partner. I tried online dating, met a couple of men before concluding that relationships were not for me. She incessantly told me, "Do not close your heart," but I do not desire a relationship. She is a hopeless romantic and does not comprehend that some individuals do not wish to get married. She promised me that she would never discuss my non-existent love life after I pleaded with her not to push me towards seeking a relationship. However, she continued to say things like, "You never know. It might happen in the future," and even asked me randomly at a Friendsgiving dinner if I liked anyone. I eventually reached a point where I informed her that the dynamics of our friendship were unhealthy. When I expressed a desire to do something, she would advise against it. I would not take her advice to heart, proceed with my own decision, and she would still criticize and attempt to prevent me from making my own choices. I wanted to honor my commitment by completing my military contract, and she suggested I simply tell my leadership that I wanted to quit because it was affecting my mental health. She believes that I would be happier and find a suitable career after I discontinued flight training. However, I would not break the cycle of quitting when faced with challenges. It would not matter what career I pursued next, as I would likely find some excuse to quit that as well. She even admitted that she had not been fully supportive of my life choices and apologized for trying to dictate how I should live my life. She congratulated me on earning my private pilot license and apologized for doubting my ability to cross the finish line. However, she insisted on being a voice of reason. The issue is that she has never held a job. She does not understand the frustrations that working individuals must endure in their lives. I eventually grew weary of her idealistic belief that I would be happier if I just left the military and flight training. I felt she insulted my intelligence whenever she claimed the need to be a voice of reason. Can she not allow her friends to determine what the best decisions are for themselves? Ultimately, I ended the friendship. I concluded that the friendship no longer served a purpose in our lives. She was a significant part of my support system when I mourned my late childhood friend. I kept her accountable when she procrastinated on her academic work and attended her college graduation party. She was my confidante, but that is no longer the case. The friendship became unhealthy and unfair for both of us. I am upset that she cannot support me and my life choices, even if she does not agree with them all the time. She kept second-guessing me. I even noticed that she was trying to appease me by telling me what I wanted to hear. She censored herself, and that was unjust to her. Friend 2 wanted to salvage the friendship, but I was already finished. We do not share anything in common, and we both grew tired of having the same conversation repeatedly. It was time to move on. Friend 3. I met friend 3 in the same way that I met friend 1. Friend 1, friend 3, and I spent so much time together in high school as if the three of us were inseparable. I also confided in him whenever I needed to discuss something. Friend 3 is a kind-hearted individual, and he did not seem overly concerned when I informed him that friend 1 had blocked me on Instagram following Trump's victory. Friend 3 believes that it will take some time for friend 1 to come around, but I do not think he will. Friend 3 also voted for Harris, but he did not disown me for voting for Trump. The issue is that I do not see how someone who voted for the Democratic candidate in the last 3 presidential elections would want to reconcile with a Republican friend after disowning him. I even told friend 3 that I wanted nothing to do with friend 1 to prevent any confusion when he notices tension within our friendship group and silence in our group chat. I believe it will reach a point where friend 3 realizes that friend 1 and I will harbor animosity toward one another for the rest of our lives. Friend 3 will be very disappointed by that outcome. Friend 3 will be angry with friend 1 for disowning me for voting for Trump. Friend 3 will also be angry with me for not wanting to give friend 1 another chance. We are going to end up resenting each other, and our friendships will come to an end. Is this the inevitable conclusion of friendships? I have been friends with friend 1 and friend 3 for 10 years, and with friend 2 for nearly 6 years. I now recognize that I need new friends who share my values, interests, and goals. Is there any hope of preventing a friendship breakup with friend 3, or will I have to entirely rebuild my friendship circle from the ground up? Summary: my friendship circle is disintegrating. One friendship is ending due to the 2024 presidential election, the second due to a prolonged debate about my personal and professional life, and the third friendship may end because of the fallout with friend 1. Story 3. When I recommended a church friend for a teaching job, I didn't expect her to become an awkward coworker. After a tense classroom incident over lights, she broke down in tears during a meeting. Did I cross a line by standing up for myself in front of students? Backstory: I am a 30-year-old female who works as a paraprofessional and teacher's aide at a high school. I was initially hired as a substitute teacher, but due to a great need for paraprofessionals halfway through the school year, they asked me to change roles. There was a pay increase of around $10 a day compared to my previous position, but it was not significant. Nonetheless, I am pleased that I made the switch, as it allows me to be a more active participant in the school. My new role involves supporting an upperclassman with selective mutism, which means she experiences anxiety to the point where she does not communicate her needs to anyone. My responsibilities included being present, attentive, and offering assistance as needed. Setup: I have been a member of my current church for almost 2 years. Last January, I was so involved that I became a part of the vestry. During the winter and spring seasons, a British couple joined our small parish, which has around 60 members, and they appeared to become very engaged in parish activities. The wife, Lily, eventually became a member of the choir, and her husband, Samson, served as a reader for the weekly Testament readings. After a few months, I learned that Lily was unhappy in her current substitute teaching job at a nearby high school, referred to as High School A, so I suggested that she consider applying to the school where I worked as a substitute, referred to as High School B. At High School A, substitutes were only called in when a teacher was absent, and it could happen on short notice. In contrast, High School B offered daily duties as fallback options for substitutes, such as hall duty and student monitoring in-school suspension, resulting in a more consistent income overall. The key factor for being hired was that one had to be recommended by someone already working at High School B. Therefore, I recommended Lily to the substitute supervisor, and she was hired quite promptly, which worked out well. We seldom worked together but frequently exchanged greetings in the hallways. New school year, new roles. My student did not require my assistance during all class periods of the day because she was allowed to leave during the last few periods. Therefore, I was assigned as the classroom paraprofessional for one of her math classes and another without her. The teacher of both classes, Jean, and I got along very well. She has been incredibly supportive of my role as a quasi-co-teacher in the class, not due to my proficiency in math, but because I can occasionally provide a different method of explanation when the students do not grasp the material. This has been a valuable opportunity for me to develop as an educator. Whenever we had a substitute teacher, I could lead a lesson or activity, and the substitute would express gratitude for making their day easier. Throughout the beginning of this year, Lily and I have been friendly, greeting each other in the hallways, chatting occasionally at lunch, and acknowledging each other when we saw one another at church. A few months ago, Lily and Samson stopped attending my church, and Lily later confided in me that she felt uncomfortable there. Honestly, I believe it is fine to leave a place if one does not feel comfortable, regardless of the circumstances. She has chosen to pursue an alternate route to earn her teacher certification while continuing to substitute teach, which is great. However, I have noticed a change in her demeanor. I observed that she became less attentive during hall duty. I walked past her numerous times and often found her absorbed in her computer or books. It felt peculiar. She substituted for one of the math classes in which I was involved, and it felt off. She insisted on calling roll even though I was aware of who was present and who was absent, and when I presented the lesson for the day, she seemed surprised. On a testing day, in a class with my selectively mute student, the classrooms were rearranged. I instructed her to supervise the class while I searched for my student, known for hiding, but I couldn't locate her. When I returned to the class, I anxiously asked Lily if my student had appeared. She said no. However, as soon as I turned around, I spotted my student seated at one of the desks. I approached Lily and asked if she had seen my student enter the room, to which she replied no and mentioned that when she called roll, there was no response for that name. I felt frustrated and tried to calmly explain that my student has selective mutism and wouldn't respond during roll call. I was certainly irritated, and I am sure that was evident in my tone. I believe Lily apologized, but then the bell rang, prompting us to move on to our next classes. In another class where she was the substitute, and I was there to assist an individual student, the bell had already rung, and the students were milling around and chatting. I began to encourage them to settle down and put away their phones, but she immediately contradicted me, saying it was fine for them to have their phones during class, which is against class policy. This leniency was out of character for her, as she was known for collecting cell phones. It is worth noting that the teacher's absence was unplanned. 2 students arrived late, and Lily was engrossed in her book, so I directed them to report to the substitute for attendance. There was no lesson plan, but at some point during the class, Lily and the students were laughing and distracting my student, whom I was attempting to help complete work for another class. After that class, she pulled me aside and expressed that she felt uncomfortable with me taking over the classes where she had me as a paraprofessional. I was unsure how to respond at that moment, so I later apologized via text. However, I still do not believe I did anything wrong. Everything escalated 2 weeks ago. I was the paraprofessional for 2 math classes on the same day. I was reminding the students to put away their phones in the designated areas at the front of the room when she said, "I will take care of that." She had been known to have students put away their phones when she called their names for attendance, but these small classes routinely complied with putting away their phones on their own. The first class was awkward. She called roll and mispronounced many students' names before I assigned the task. We attempted small talk, but it remained awkward. In the second math class, Lily stepped out, so I allowed the students into the room. I am still certified to substitute, so I can act as their legal teacher, and a student requested that we dim the lights for class. I asked the group if they were okay with that, and they all nodded in agreement. So the lights were turned off. When Lily returned after the bell, I had already provided the students with the assignment. I informed her about who was absent during attendance, and she appeared upset. She walked over to turn on the lights, and I asked, "Is it all right if the lights remain off?" The students requested them to be dimmed, and I jokingly remarked, "They took a vote." This did not sit well with Lily. She said, "This isn't a democracy, I am the teacher. This is my classroom." I acknowledged that I made this decision while she was not present in the classroom. However, I felt her response was excessive. I replied, "This is your classroom, go ahead and turn on the lights if you prefer," and stepped out to compose myself. When I returned, Lily suggested to the class, "What if we do 50-50? I have astigmatism, so it is challenging for me to read in the dark. The first half of class can be dark, and the second half, the lights can be on." The students glanced at her and nodded, but there were no verbal responses. She then attempted small talk with me for the rest of the class, making me uncomfortable. The following day, the students informed their regular teacher, Jean, "Please do not ever be absent again," and Jean asked me what transpired. I recounted the incident with the lights, and she was astonished. She advised me to speak with my manager, which I did. My manager was very supportive, and then brought in the manager of the substitute teachers. The three of us discussed the situation and decided to arrange a meeting with Lily at our earliest opportunity. A week later, the four of us had a discussion and shared our perspectives on the matter. Lily was defensive, making comments such as, "She is the only paraprofessional I have these classroom issues with," and "Oh, I did say that, didn't I?" It concluded with her quietly tearful and apologizing. I did not apologize, but now I wonder if I should have. I stated that it is perfectly acceptable for us to have disagreements in the classroom, but we need to communicate about them. I understand if she needs the lights on, but it escalated so quickly before she even had the chance to explain her side. Did I cross a line by making decisions in her absence? I don't know. She has been distant and is attempting to act as if everything is normal, which only makes me feel more uneasy. Was I in the wrong for addressing my coworker for undermining me in front of my students? Story 4. Revamping my friendship circle. Friend 125M, friend 226F, friend 325M. My inner circle is on the verge of annihilation. I have or had 3 close friends. For the purpose of protecting their identities, let us refer to them as friend 1, friend 2, and friend 3. I will explain how my friendships with friend 1 and friend 2 ended, and potentially with friend 3 as well. Friend 1. I considered him to be one of my closest friends. We both loved baseball and played it together in high school. We had lunch together every day, attended football games every Friday night, and kept in touch, hanging out even after high school concluded. I turned to him for advice when I struggled with the yips, a baseball term, and shared with him my regrets about how I perceived my playing career as a child. We rarely agreed on political matters and had a discussion about the impact that Joe Biden would have on our country as president back in 2020. He voted for Clinton, Biden, and Harris. I wrote in Tulsi Gabbard in 2020 and voted for Trump this time. I made story posts on Instagram during election night celebrating Trump's victory, and he blocked me. He did not reach out to ask why I voted for Trump, but I understood why he blocked me. It initially surprised me because I had hinted before the election that I would vote for Trump when I posted a pro-Trump video made by his son, Don Jr., and Tulsi. I should have anticipated this outcome all along. He had voted for the Democratic nominee in 3 consecutive presidential elections. The one time we vote differently and his candidate loses, he reveals his true feelings toward me. Since he disregarded me from his life because of politics, I no longer want anything to do with him. I vented this to friends 2 and 3, and they believe we will reconcile at some point. It is nonsense. Who ends a 10-year friendship solely over politics? Friend 2. I had a difficult time ending this friendship. We met during the spring semester of 2018 in our United States history class. Friend 2 and I are not day 1 friends. I became annoyed when she consistently asked me what the professor said during her lectures. I conveyed my frustration to her about that. She did not pay attention, and I felt that she was trying to rely on me to pass the class. I remember running into her while walking to a class the next semester, and I said to her that I felt bad for being aggressive towards her, knowing she meant no harm. She is a smart and nice person, but she lacked focus. Friend 2 and I were friends for almost 6 years. I used to manage a club at the university we both attended. She was one of my board members, and we became very close as we talked more. She helped me grieve the loss of my childhood friend who served in the Marines. We supported one another during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic when we had to stay home. I would say our friendship started to decline after I graduated college in 2021. I enlisted in the military in July 2022. When I first told her about it, she did not fully support my decision. She expressed that she was proud of me for joining, but was also concerned for my safety and life. That seems like half-hearted support to me. I joined the military to honor my childhood friend who served in the Marines and to serve my country. If she cannot accept that I am willing to die for America, she is being selfish. It seems as though she is fine with others risking their lives for our country, but does not want me to. I have to live and die by my own decisions. It is not her place to decide. I vented to her about how much I disliked being in the military and how afraid I was of flying a plane during my private pilot license training. She kept suggesting that I would be happier and less stressed if I quit the military and flight training. I argued that I had invested so much time and money into obtaining my license, which I have now, and I could not simply quit in the middle of my contract. I did not want to take the easy way out, even though I dislike this career. It also took me a while to admit to her that I am ashamed of having quit many things in my life: baseball, swimming, piano. I wanted to break the cycle of not overcoming adversity in my life. When I passed my private pilot check ride, I felt a sense of accomplishment not only for earning my license, but for overcoming a significant hurdle in my life. When I graduated from boot camp, I felt proud of myself for not quitting during training. I also disliked how she continually encouraged me to find a romantic partner. I tried online dating and met a couple of guys before concluding that relationships are not for me. She constantly told me, "Do not close your heart," but I do not want a relationship. She is a hopeless romantic and does not understand that some individuals do not want to get married. She promised me that she would never discuss my non-existent love life after I begged her not to pressure me into seeking a relationship. However, she continued saying things like, "You never know, it might happen in the future," and even asked me randomly at a Friendsgiving dinner if I liked anyone. I eventually reached a point where I told her that the dynamics of our friendship were unhealthy. I would express my desire to do something. She would advise against it. I would disregard her advice and proceed with my own decisions, and she would still criticize me and try to prevent me from acting on my choices. I wanted to honor my commitment by completing my military contract, but she suggested I simply tell my leadership that I wanted to quit because it was affecting my mental health. She believes I would be happier and find a suitable career after quitting flight training. However, I do not want to perpetuate the cycle of quitting whenever challenges arise. It does not matter what the next career path is, I will find an excuse to quit that as well. She even admitted that she has not been fully supportive of my life decisions and apologized for attempting to dictate how I should live. She congratulated me on earning my private pilot license and apologized for doubting my ability to cross the finish line. However, she insisted on being a voice of reason. The problem is that she has never held a job. She does not understand the frustrations that working people endure. I grew tired of her idealistic viewpoint that I would be happier if I quit the military and flight training. It felt insulting to my intelligence whenever she claimed to need to be a voice of reason. Can she not allow her friends to determine what decisions are best for themselves? Ultimately, I ended the friendship. I felt that our relationship no longer served a purpose in our lives. She was a significant part of my support system when I grieved my late childhood friend. I supported her by keeping her on track with her schoolwork and attending her college graduation party. She was my confidante, but that is no longer the case. The friendship had become unhealthy and unfair for both of us. I am upset that she cannot support me and my life decisions, even if she does not agree 100% of the time. She kept doubting me, and I even noticed that she was trying to appease me by telling me what I wanted to hear. She censored herself, and that is not fair to her. Friend 2 wanted to salvage the friendship, but I was already finished. We no longer have anything in common, and we were both tired of having the same conversation repeatedly. It was time to move on. Friend 3. I met Friend 3 in the same manner as I met Friend 1. Friend 1, Friend 3, and I spent a lot of time together in high school. It was as if the three of us were inseparable. I also confided in him whenever I needed to talk about something. Friend 3 is a kind-hearted individual, and he did not seem overly concerned when I told him that Friend 1 blocked me on Instagram after Trump's victory. Friend 3 thinks that it will take some time for Friend 1 to come around, but I do not believe he will. Friend 3 also voted for Harris, but he did not disown me for voting for Trump. The issue is that I do not see how someone who has voted Democratic in the last 3 presidential elections and disowned his Republican friend would want to reconcile in the future. I even informed Friend 3 that I do not want anything to do with Friend 1 so that he is not confused when he notices tension in our group of friends and silence in our group chat. I think we will reach a point where friend 3 realizes that friend 1 and I will harbor animosity toward each other for the rest of our lives. Friend 3 will be very disappointed about that. He will be angry with friend 1 for disowning me because I voted for Trump. He will also be angry with me for not wanting to give friend 1 another chance. We are going to end up resenting each other, and our friendships will come to an end. Is this the inevitable conclusion of friendships? I have been friends with friend 1 and friend 3 for 10 years, and with friend 2 for almost 6 years. I now recognize that I need new friends who share my values, interests, and goals. Is there hope to prevent a friendship breakup with friend 3, or will I have to start an entirely new circle of friendships from scratch?